Hi, hello, welcome to Devon Monk's Works and Worlds. I have no idea what Monday Monk this is. Is it 66? Are we that far, or is it 67? I really don't remember. I will have to go look, but I'll put it in the description. So, welcome to this Monday Monk. I really appreciate you being here to spend a little time with me. Just like any other Monday, I am going to cover three things: how things are going with writing, how things are going with what's the second thing? Knitting, and how things are going with Monkland in general. So let me just start from the top. How are things going with writing, Devon Monk? Good, actually. I had hoped that I could report back that I was writing so many glorious new words next time I saw you here on the screen, but I have not. Yeah. No words, glorious or otherwise. Well, okay, that's not quite true. So here's the real story. I'm re-releasing the Broken Magic series, which is Hellbent, Stone Cold, Backlash, and Dirty Work is the new book in that series that I'll be releasing this year. And I thought, because Hellbent, I wrote, hang on, I've got a copy of it up here. Let me grab it. Hellbent is copywritten, which means it came out probably, oops, sorry about that noise. Probably it came out a year to a year and a half after I wrote it. So it is copywritten in 2013, and I would have written it like a year before that. So I wrote it like in 2012, and that's what, 11 years ago now, right? So my goal was to just run it through a quick copy edit to make sure that there weren't any weird grammar errors that had slipped through. Again, this was traditionally published through Penguin Random House, one of the big New York publishers, and it went through several copy edits and it went through proofs, and it was all cleaned up and professionally done. But I thought, well, now that the rights have reverted to me, which means I have the right to be able to publish it myself, I thought, let me just clean it up, make sure it's in good shape to send out again. Cue my surprise that there were actually quite a few errors in the book that absolutely needed some fixing. I remember when I wrote it being really on a hard deadline, and I remember thinking to myself, I hope we catch all of this in proof in proofs and copy edits. And I thought we did okay. We didn't get a lot of complaints about errors in the book, but if you went through it with the finest of the fine-tooth comb, you would have found some errors. I certainly did. So I went in and I fixed those. And then and then this is what I shouldn't have done, but I'm really glad I did it. So it's not even kinda. I'm very glad I've done it. There was always something I wanted to do to that book because, again, like I said, I was on a pretty tight deadline. And I knew there was a little more emotional punch I wanted to put into that book. I wanted it to be a little, to hit a little more on all cylinders, because I think it did pretty well. We have a lot of Seamus Lynn and Tarek Conley fans out there, which are the two leads in the books. But I never felt like I quite did what I wanted to do with it. Now, the story itself, as in where we are in the beginning to where we end up in the end, exactly the same. Nothing about that is changing. But I am going in and hitting some of the emotional cues a little harder and revising some kind of clunky sentences. Again, it's going to be the same book. You're not going, like, if you read it back when it came out in 2013, which if you did, you're amazing and I love you. But if you haven't read it, it's going to feel fresher and newer. It's got the Devon's now 11 years further in her writing career and can do a little more with characterization in a shorter space. It's got a little more fine-tunedness to it, I hope. And I think if you read it back in 2013, like I said, I love you. And you wouldn't necessarily have to buy it again to read it again to see what I changed. Like, it's going to be really the same story, but I think it's going to be better. I'm going through and I'm revising some of the sentences. So, like I said, I'm going through and I'm revising some of the emotional cues and some of the action sequences and just the information feed in the sentences. It's all writer crafty stuff, but I feel like it's making it smooth out and flow the way that I wanted it to when I first wrote it in 2013 and didn't have that chance to do that extra pass on it. And it has Devon 2023's hopefully heightened skill behind it. So I am doing really a light revision, or maybe a proofread polish. I don't know what to call it because this isn't the way I usually do things. I'm also looking for typos and extra spaces or anything like that. And I found a couple, not very many. So we did pretty good on the typos. There's a few tense changes that was incorrect that I fixed. So, tense changes that were incorrect. I get the tense changes wrong when I say it out loud. That's amazing. Okay, anyway, so I've done some cleanup on it. And I would say that if you haven't read it for a long, long time, it might be worth getting again to reread it. It's going to have a new cover. It will be available in libraries, so I'm not saying that you have to purchase it, and it will be available as an ebook and as a print book. So it's going to be coming out soon. Hellbent, it will be coming out in June, and that will begin the re-releasing of the Breaker books. So it'll be Hellbent, and then probably three weeks after that or so will be Stone Cold. And then after that, same about 3 weeks or, less than a month after that should be Backlash, which I went through, and boy, I found some errors in that one. And then, and then the new one, Dirty Work, which I'm going to warn you is a shorter story. It is a short book, probably one of the shorter books that I've written, but it fit and it got everything done and I liked it and it was short and punchy. And so, yeah, I'm going to just go with it. Like, I find when I read ebooks, I can kind of tell when there's a short book and kind of can tell when there's a long book. But as long as it's kind of in the medium middle, just its book length. So this is a book length story, but it is definitely shorter in page count, but still a full story. And I hope you'll give it a try. It will come out. Let's see if we do. So these are all coming out about 3 weeks apart from each other. So I'll have them up for pre-order though. So you can pre-order them if you want to to get the first one and then just pre-order all the way through. There'll be links and they'll be ready to go. Hopefully. That's what I'm aiming for. I've got a lot of work to do this week in formatting and uploading and getting those pre-orders set up. But look for this starting off in June. We'll be able to get our hands on these books with the new covers, which I will reveal here on the channel too. So, okay. So writing, I guess I talked a little more about it than I usually do, but it is going well. What else is going on? Knitting. Yeah, I'm not knitting. I'm not knitting. I need to put that toy together. I had started, it's got a lot of stitching in it. So toys are built two different ways when you knit them. One is they can be knit mostly in the round, which allows you not to have seams. And that's my preferred way to do toys. And most toy patterns, if they're knit the other way, which is knit flat, back and forth, so you just have flat pieces of material that you then stitch into the right shape, so you have seams. Most of those patterns I always just convert into knit in the round if I can. And I'm a skilled enough knitter to do that. But I had used an Allen Dart pattern this time. And if you recall, he was the first person who got me into knitting toys because I saw his Yuletide gnome and I went bananas for it and I had to knit it. And it was the very first toy that I had ever knit and I never looked back from there. So I decided to do another Allen Dart pattern and he knit this pattern flat and I thought, well, there must be some reason for that. I'll just follow his lead. And honestly, I could have knit most of it in the round. So, but it does mean that there's more making up time at the end because everything has to be seamed. And again, it's a knitted situation with the seaming and stuff, but yeah, so I've got some piecework to do and I should work on that tonight. We'll see if I did. It's either work on that or finish off Hellbent's proof copy polish thing, but one or the other, that'll happen tonight. So, yeah, so knitting's going well in that I'm still working on the toy that will be given away in my newsletter. If you aren't signed up to my newsletter, please do. There's a link to it down below. I always put it first after this just so that you can sign up for it. It usually only goes out once a month. It almost always has a knit toy in it. This little TV will be given away in that newsletter also because the winner of that toy from actually March, because I didn't get an April, or was it April and I didn't get a May newsletter out? No, this is May. It was March and I didn't get an April newsletter out. The winner didn't contact me. So that toy is still going to be up for grabs. So yeah, knitting will go forward. I'll do something else after this. This toy I knit on like US number ones, basically almost aught needles, very small, with like not lace weight, but fingering, almost sock weight yarn. tiny yarn, tiny needles, and the next time I'm going to make on larger needles and larger yarn. Just for my sanity, you need a little switch between the two, so I'm going to switch it up. Okay, so that's it. So writing, knitting, what's next is Monkland. How is Monkland going? Good, thank you. So some fun things. Our garden is already growing. Like last year when we planted, and we did plant really late, we didn't get anything popping up out of the soil for like almost 3 or 4 weeks, really 3 weeks probably. The peas did okay. They pretty immediately came up last year, but like we planted lettuce and spinach, and one lettuce plant came up the entire year. And I don't know if we were using old seeds or bad soil, but this year we were determined to do better. So we bought new seeds that were fresh and good to go. And we changed out our soil. We added compost in it, our own compost that we are making. My husband has gone a little compost crazy, and he bought a compost thing, and now we compost. But what's great is it's far enough away from the house that you don't smell it, and it's close enough to the house that it's easy to dump the vegetable peels and stuff into it. So we got compost dirt, and then we also got some dirt from this is Oregon, people. So we got some dirt from a manufacturer, a marijuana growing warehouse. So marijuana manufacturer, marijuana warehouse, growing warehouse. I don't know what it's called. They were the first medical marijuana grower here in our town. And they have to have really strict regulations on the soil that they grow in and how they handle all the plants and stuff. And because they still supply medical use marijuana. And so they have to rotate their soil every month or something like that. And they give it away for free. And it's really good, high quality soil. So we got some of that. None of the plants. We didn't get any of the plants. But we got the soil, and we put that in the garden beds. And then my husband caught wind of a secret best soil for growing gardens in the valley in our area, and he went off to another town to go pick that up. It's sworn as being the best by this tomato farmer who farms like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes. It's the best for his farm or whatever. And so we picked it up and added that to the mix. And man, our garden, we planted the seeds. We had sprouts coming up the next week. So we already have spinach and lettuce and beans and peas and carrots, and I'm not sure if the beets are up yet, but like everything, pretty much everything we put in the ground has already sprouted. And that's fantastic. I'm hoping we get a really good crop this year. We planted when the weather was still kind of wet and cool, and then it turned off really hot this last week. We had for Oregon, we had like 94, 95, 96, 97 degree type days. They issued a heat warning, which I thought was a little weird because they usually only do that when it gets up past the hundreds. But it was our first 95, over 95 degree day. And I think they were trying to warn people with the heat warning of just saying stay hydrated, put your sunblock on, stay inside during the heat of the middle of the day if you can, put your air conditioners out or put your fans on. And so there's a couple of really hot days to begin the year. And again, this is May. If things were normal, which I don't know that they ever will be again, but if they were, we would have our hot weather really start in June or so, into June. But it's here in the middle of May. But it's lovely blue skies. Today we had clouds roll in, which was a lovely break from all of that. We're down to reasonable temperatures somewhere in the mid 70s. This whole week will be in the mid 70s and the 80s, which is lovely. So, we're having kind of a easing into summer situation, and that's really nice. But the plants are loving it. The garden is loving it. And so are all of the weeds in my yard. I went outside today and I am so behind in weeding. It's ridiculous. I might just let them win this year. It's like the blackberries are going to win. The English ivy's going to win. We have weird thistles and stuff that are creeping over and just eating all of the flower beds. But I guess I can't go down without a fight, because today I went out and I pulled some weeds, and I was digging under our rhododendrons and pulling out some weird, we get squirrels planting oak trees, acorns, and we get oak trees coming up and all these weird things. And holly bushes show up and pine trees, like, everything gets planted by the birds and the squirrels, and you got to pull that out. But I was pulling out a bunch of just, regular weeds, grass where it shouldn't have been, and some dandelions and some, I don't know what they're called. They're really tall, thin, stocky, yellow, flowery thing that we get. I'll have to look it up and see what it is. Anyways, just pulling them up by hand, by my bare hands, because I was like, oh no, let's do something while I'm standing here. So I was weeding under the roadies. And there's this one little sprout under there that had oak leaf-like leaves. They look like kind of oak tree leaves. And I realized that, and there were like 3 of them. And if you don't know, poison oak is very common here in the valley. And poison oak is like poison ivy or poison sumac. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those, but basically you touch the leaves and that oil gets on whatever you touch, and you break out in a terrible blistering rash that itches and burns and spreads and swells. And I'm highly allergic to it. So if I get poison oak, I have to go get steroids and stuff to kind of fight it back, because it will just run rampage through my body. And poison oak is always oak leaf looking leaves, 3 of them. And I reach down barehanded and I grab it and I pull, and I'm like, this better not be poison oak or I'm going to be so mad. But I realized after I pulled it out that it wasn't a dark green, and it usually is a darker green this time of year. So I think it's fine. I think what I actually pulled out was a little oak tree that some squirrel had planted, an acorn or whatever. So I'm not worried about that. But I thought to myself, gloves. I really need to wear gloves. No more of this just random pull weeds out by the bare hands. I should put gloves on, because otherwise I won't be doing anything, because I'll just be one big itchy rashy mess. So anyway, okay, so that's what we've been doing. We've been doing garden work. We're trying to get other parts of our outdoor space set up. We have a little mobile fire pit. We want to get that set up this year. My husband's trying to keep our yard mowed, because this is when it grows really fast, and then once the heat kicks on and we stop watering, it'll all die, but we want it to look nice while it can. And we've got our berries being watered and growing, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. We have our grapes, red grapes and Concord grapes are doing well this year, and our apple trees are all doing well, and our plums and pears. We're having a hard time with our peach trees, but we've never had good luck with our peach trees. And my husband keeps saying, look, they're just about dead. There's only one green thing left on them. We should just take them out. And I'm like, oh, no, the peach tree, it still has green on it. It's alive. We have to save it. And he's like, okay, fine. So we have a couple of ailing peach trees that I keep hoping will rally. We'll see if they do or not. And so it's definitely outdoor space as far as what we're doing in our spare time. Oh, and this is the other thing I wanted to bring up now that this video is way too long. We also went up to the McMinnville UFO Festival, the McManamons UFO Festival. It's a yearly event. It's kind of an outdoor festival fair thing. It has a parade, costume contest, a dog costume contest, and it was wonderful. It was a little warm. It was a little hot. And a lot of walking, but they block off the main street, and they have vendors and open booths at each side of the main street. And I was looking for an alien t-shirt and I didn't find one, but I did find an alien. I didn't bring it up here with me. I'll show you next time. And there were so many people in wonderful outfits up there. So I saw Marvin the Martian, I saw Coneheads, I saw Jawa, I saw, I think, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I saw, what were some of the other, the Super Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. There were just so many great aliens, and people actually just wearing alien baubles on their head, or retro kind of 50s rocket gear, lots of holographic shiny capes and jellyfish UFO looking hats, and it was really fun. People really got into it, and the vendors were great. And what I noticed, because it's been a while since I've done an outside venue like this, but what I noticed is the vendors were all really happy. Like when I went up sometimes at long events, and we were there on a Saturday, and I think it's been going since Thursday or Friday, they've been having the event. Sometimes you come up to a vendor who's been outside in the heat and stuff, understandably they're a little tired and maybe don't have a smile on their face, But everybody that I walked up to at any of the vending booths were smiling and laughing. And when I was like trying to pick out what little alien I want to buy, they were like laughing about the different aliens. And everybody was having fun. There were bubble guns, and it was just fun, just fun. So yeah, I want to go back next year. That's the first time I've ever been to the UFO festival. It's began with McMenamins, which is a local brewery up there. Well, they're a franchise, but they are a local to Oregon brewery, the McMenamins, and they tend to take over old like schoolhouses and boarding houses and whatever hotels and stuff and turn them into pubs basically. And so this was a McMenamins hotel that they took over and turned into a pub. And they began the UFO festival because there was a unidentified flying thing in the air recorded back in like in the 70s, right around that area. And they thought, well, that's kind of fun. And so they kind of did a themed. I think they started it with just like at their hotel pub place, like let's just do a themed party, and it took over. And now that's kind of McMinnville's fun little festival that they do outside. It's terrific. I totally want to go next year. Had a great time. And yeah, so that's it. Got a little bit of summer already, even though it's only May. And I have a lot of books left to fix up before they get relaunched. So I think I will call that enough because I have gone way over my time limit. And until next time, I hope you have a week that's out of this world. Ha ha! I'll see you later. Bye.